Hello, hockey fans. Austin here with just a quick news update and also a little bit of a lineup discussion from morning skate today, or I guess I should say practice. And I also wanted to discuss a couple things that the Oilers are probably going to want to work on before game 3 tomorrow night. I know I was supposed to have a day after discussion up yesterday, but I did not have a voice after that double OT loss in game 2. And my voice today is still pretty, not 100%, but I'm going to get a video out today for everyone. If you end up enjoying, make sure to hit that like button. And of course, if you really like this video and you're not yet subscribed to the channel and you want to continue to support an independent creator that is, very passionate about the Oilers and hockey in general, then of course, make sure you're subscribed. Tomorrow morning, I'll have the pregame report up for game 3. And then tomorrow night, I will be live streaming once again. Now let's discuss some of the lineup changes and potential injury concern for the Edmonton Oilers. Bob Stauffer put out a tweet. He asked Kris Knoblauch today after practice why Nugent-Hopkins was not available and if he was going to be available for the game tomorrow. And Kris Knoblauch says RNH is a game time decision tomorrow. So that means Ryan Nugent-Hopkins dealing with something. It could be illness. We know Connor Brown was sick before the start of the Stanley Cup final. We know Kris Knoblauch's voice sounded a little scratchy before the finals as well. Probably a bug going through the room right now. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. And if it is just like a flu or a cold, get that IV bag for Nugent-Hopkins. He'll be good to go. However, if it is injury related, that could be of a concern. I don't really remember seeing Nugent-Hopkins take any faceoffs after the second period in game 2, so he could be a little bit banged up, and it might explain why he hasn't, I guess, been as effective as he was in the Dallas Stars series. So with that being said, what would the lineups look like? So these were the lines at practice today. There's no real changes for the forward group other than Jeff Skinner kind of being the placeholder for where Ryan Nugent-Hopkins would be on that top line with McDavid and Corey Perry. Now, their sample size in the playoffs and in the regular season is far too small to put an expected goals for percentage. The advanced metrics on Natural Stat Trick, it's just not worth putting the numbers there for like 5 minutes of time on ice together with those three. They did not play together at all. So Nugent-Hopkins, I have him listed under the injuries. He is a game time decision. Hopefully Nuge is okay, but if not, it's next man up, and the next man up is going to be Jeff Skinner. On the second line, you have Evander Kane with Leon Draisaitl and Kasperi Kapanen. They still control 64.33% of the expected goals when they're together. I did find Kapanen had maybe his worst game of the postseason in game 2 against Florida, and I found that, as lines were being shuffled, he definitely was getting a lot less ice time than I think we were, maybe expecting from him after how strong of a game 1 that he had. Third line is Trent Frederick, Adam Henrique, and Connor Brown. Now, overall for the playoffs, they still have a 52.72 expected goals for percentage, but that line combined in game 2 was absolutely atrocious. They were also atrocious in game 1. The only player that I feel like has been even remotely effective on that third line has been Trent Frederick. He's the only one that seems to be around the blue paint. He's the only one that seems to be physical. He's the only one that ever seems like he can even get the puck. Adam Henrique and Connor Brown, to me, they're not working out together at all. It is a very, very bad line. It's like when they were playing Janmark with Henrique and Brown earlier. The line doesn't work, and there should be a change in this bottom 6. I would move Brown down, Arvidsson up, or Podkolzin up, and Frederick down. That would be like my optimal, change to the bottom 6. But again, it's your bottom 6, right? This is something where, they've been providing depth scoring for Edmonton. But now that you're going into Florida, Florida gets the line matchups that they want. If Florida wants to put Barkov out against Frederick, Henrique, and Brown, I won't blame Paul Maurice one bit, because that line would absolutely feast on Edmonton's current third line. They're just not doing enough right now to justify staying together. However, the Oilers, they're tied in this series. They only need to win one game on the road, which they're going to do tomorrow in game 3. I'm giving the Austin Hockey guarantee with or without Nugent-Hopkins. I have faith. I am feeling positive about this group. We're feeling good, even though there is some uncertainty here. Fourth line, Podkolzin, Janmark, and Arvidsson. They have a 43.07 expected goals percentage. However, at 5-on-5, they have outscored their opponents 7-2. So the expected goals is not matching up with the actual goals for, which means that's unsustainable production, which means at some point that fourth line is going to regress, which means Kris Knoblauch should maybe think about making an adjustment here. Maybe you move Podkolzin up, maybe you move Arvidsson up. Whatever the case is, you got to do something a little bit different here. And when it comes to the top six, if Nugent-Hopkins can't go, I would highly consider playing Jeff Skinner with McDavid and Connor Brown. I would reunite that line from the regular season. That line had a lot of success in a little bit of ice time together. They went on a bit of a heater, as the kids would say. So, there's a lot of tinkering they can do with this forward group. There's a lot of depth available to the Edmonton Oilers. Even without Nugent-Hopkins available, I still like Edmonton's forward group as long as everyone is playing to their potential and they're playing to what we have seen so far in the postseason. Game 2 was a rough game for a lot of different players on this team, but the team has a glorious opportunity to bounce back. If you win Game 3, guess what? You've taken home ice advantage back, and then you've set yourself up to win potentially Game 4 and head back to Edmonton up 3-1 with a chance to clinch on home ice in front of the rabid fan base that wants this so bad, and I can see the passion all over social media. It is so much fun to be part of. Now, the big changes here in practice was the defense pairs. These were actually big changes that Paul Coffey and Kris Knoblauch have done. The top pair at practice was Darnell Nurse with Evan Bouchard. Now, together in limited minutes so far in the playoffs, they combined for a 54.6 expected goals for percentage, but their actual goals for, goals against is in the negatives. I think they're 5 goals for, 8 goals against when they're on the ice together. So again, now, we talk about Podkolzin and Janmark Arvidsson's actual production being unsustainable compared to their underlying metrics. Nurse and Bouchard, they're getting PDO'd a little bit, the bad luck PDO, where they're not really getting any saves when they're on the ice, but they do control play. I've seen a lot of fans really concerned about Nurse and Bouchard because when one of them makes a mistake, the other one is usually not there to help cover. But these two players, they've been here before. They know what they have to do. And I think for Darnell Nurse, having a good puck mover next to him is key, right? We've seen Nurse and Kulak together that haven't been working very well, so I don't mind that they are splitting them up. I think Kulak is much more comfortable on his left side instead of the right. And for Evan Bouchard, as long as he's able to move the puck, get things out of trouble, I think that allows Nurse, whenever he has the puck, he can skate out of trouble. I think Darnell Nurse, sometimes he just starts trying to do a little bit too much depending who his defense partner is. I'm not saying that, we shouldn't be criticizing Nurse's play either. The fact that he can really only play, or he seems like he can only play with Troy Stecher, is not something that we should be expecting from him. He is the highest paid defenseman on the team. Darnell Nurse should be able to play with anyone, and the fact that the team has to try and fit someone next to Darnell Nurse is, of course, very disappointing. But Nurse and Bouchard, we're going to see how it works. I don't mind that defense pair, right? And we know if it's not working, Paul Coffey will likely switch some things around, but we'll just play it by ear. Their underlying metrics are fine. I know the actual metrics are not, but the underlying metrics are okay. I'd like to hope that their numbers will rebound accordingly. Now, Ekholm and Klingberg were also paired together. Now, this sample was literally too small. They have not played together at all as a defense pair. Basically, not at all during the season or the playoffs, because Ekholm's only played a few games. So there's no advanced underlying metrics to compare these two. On paper, this pair is fine. Ekholm, great defensively. Klingberg, great puck mover, and a little bit of, skating ability as well. Now, Ekholm, I think his big issue at the moment is just being in game shape. I think the cardio levels are getting to Ekholm because, he's barely played at all in the playoffs, and Game 1 goes to overtime, almost a full overtime before the Oilers won it. Game 2 goes to double overtime. This team has basically played 3 full NHL games in 2 playoff games. So, if you count all the overtime time, right? The overtime periods. This team has played about 9 periods of hockey in 2 games, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm confusing myself. But Ekholm and Klingberg, we'll see how they work out. I don't mind it. And then on the third pair, you have Kulak with Wallman, who together have played a decent amount during the season and playoffs. They have a 78.19 expected goal share. Really like that. Obviously, the underlying metrics are great for those two. But I think that's just a credit to Kulak and Wallman. Wallman seems to be someone that you can play kind of wherever in the defensive pairs, and he will step up. I think the optimal pair, though, for me personally, the optimal pair for Darnell Nurse would be to play with Jake Wallman. I think Wallman and Nurse should be paired together. I think Wallman would really, really help Darnell Nurse's game. And of course, Wallman, he's on a bit of a heater right now. He can build off his game too. And then you can have Kulak back with Bouchard, because those two historically have played very well together. They played very well earlier in the postseason before Ekholm came back. So there's a lot of different things that the team can do with these lines. So we'll have to see if they're able to, find some success tomorrow in game 3. Now, there's a couple things I want to discuss before I end this video, and what that has to do with Edmonton's game plan. In game 1, the Oilers were hitting everything that was moving, right? Now, the Oilers, of course, have struggled in the second periods as well. In the second period of game 1, they were outshot 17-8. In game 2, they were outshot 14-9. And the second period so far have been Edmonton's kryptonite. They are not doing well when it comes to second periods. Now, in game 1, the Oilers threw 51 hits. The Florida Panthers threw 51 hits. Now, defensively, you had Klingberg, Kulak, Nurse, Wallman, all credited with at least one hit. Wallman ended up being the most physical of the Oilers' D pairs or D-men. In game 2, Nurse and Wallman were the only defensemen credited with a hit. Klingberg didn't have one. Kulak didn't have one. Ekholm, he's not 100%. He's not going to be chasing guys to hit them into the boards. But the Florida Panthers are taking advantage of that aspect of Edmonton's defense. They know when they chip it into the corner, they're not going to get punished for it, right? They're going to go in, and that allows them to help win board battles. But if you look at the Oilers' forward group as well, in game 1, I'm going to switch it back to game 1 visual here. Kane with 9, Kapanen 5, Podkolzin 5, Janmark 4, Draisaitl 4, Henrique was throwing his body, Frederick, Arvidsson, Nuge had 3 hits, McDavid even had 3 hits. So the only player that had less than 2 hits on the Oilers forward group in game 1 was Connor Brown. And again, he's not really a guy that throws his weight around anyways. But in game 2, Nugent-Hopkins threw 0. McDavid only threw 1. Vasily Podkolzin, 1 hit in almost, 5 periods of play. That is very interesting to me. I don't know if that means Podkolzin's dealing with something or if he just wasn't able to establish a forecheck and get in and hit anyone. Draisaitl only credited with 1 hit. Arvidsson only credited with 2. Janmark 2, Frederick had 4. Henrique was credited with 6 hits, so the fact he was the second most physical forward on the team. The Oilers, their second periods have been their kryptonite, the long change. Florida is exposing them heavily, and of course, physically, the Oilers only threw 39 hits total in game 2. It's very clear that the Oilers came out in game 1 on a mission. They asserted themselves physically, and the Florida Panthers didn't have as much of an answer as, they probably hoped. In game 2, Florida, they came out with a mission. They wanted to be the more physical team. They wanted to start things after whistles, and the Oilers, I don't know if they decided to try and just be a puck possession team. The fact that Edmonton, I think, had the puck less in game 2 than they did in game 1 in terms of, overall possession metrics, there were a lot of times where Edmonton was being, were chasing. They were chasing the game. They were chasing players around their own zone in the D zone, and they weren't able to hit anybody. So that means a couple things to me. One, the Oilers were getting tired in game 2, and they weren't able to catch up and hit anyone. Or 2, they have actively, consciously chosen to change their game plan after asserting their physicality in game 1. Or number 3, they have guys that are banged up. Those who were throwing hits in game 1 were unable to properly assert themselves in game 2. We'll have to see how it plays out, but I think Edmonton wants or should be getting back to that physical side because Florida, their defense, you can expose them if you're physical against them. Ekblad and Forsling and Mikkola, I don't think these guys are 100% on the Florida Panthers, and if you can get a forward in, dumping that puck into the corner with one of those high lobs into the corner and then have a forward come in and absolutely bang them into the boards, you're going to have success. And then that also creates turnovers and it creates chaos. And then defense on the Panthers, they're going to start panicking with the puck. And we saw that with the Oilers defense because that's how Florida was playing. They weren't doing as many hard rims around in game 2. I noticed in game 1, Florida, they do the hard rim around, and then Stuart Skinner, he'd come out and block that from actually transpiring. In game 2, Florida was a lot more tactical with where they were placing dump-ins so that Stuart Skinner couldn't come out of his net to play it. So Edmonton, they were chasing the game too much. They have to work on their second periods. They have to work on the long change. They have to work on puck movement. They need their forwards back, getting passes from their defense. They need someone back with that, 5, 6, 7 foot support. And the Oilers, of course, have to start being more physical. We know Florida is the most physical team. We know Edmonton historically is not a overly physical hockey club, but when they're physical and they choose to be physical, they are an absolute menace to deal with. You have to make the Panthers uncomfortable. Not many teams make them uncomfortable. The Oilers made Florida uncomfortable in game 1, but I found Florida was a little bit too comfortable in game 2. Let's see if Edmonton can make them very uncomfortable in game 3. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit that like button. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know who you would, replace Nugent-Hopkins with. Let me know what your optimal lines and D pairs would look like. And let me know if you think Stuart Skinner is going to have a big bounce back tomorrow night in Florida. I can't wait for game 3. It's crunch time here, folks. It is a best of 5 for the Stanley Cup. First team to 3 more wins takes this thing home. Cannot wait. We'll see you soon. As always, tell someone that you love them. Fight like a kid. Fight like Ben. Let's go Oilers. I'll see you tomorrow.